Hey, Eddie here with Guitar Mastery Method, and I'm about to show you how to play this rippin' E minor pentatonic lick. All right, let's break this down piece by piece. So I said this was an E minor pentatonic lick, right? But it covers a huge portion of the fretboard, so it kind of goes across multiple E pentatonic patterns on the fretboard, which is partly what makes this such a cool lick. So in the beginning, we're starting in position 1, right, with the open E. And then what I do is I like to do a slight blues bend with my second finger here on the 3rd fret of the low E string. So we're doing open E, and then blues bend on the 3rd fret. And then we're gonna bar the 2nd fret on the A and the D string. So it creates that nice, grimy, smeary sound. You know, it just sounds rock and roll, right? So we do that first part. And then with my 3rd finger, I slide up to the 7th fret here on the A string, which brings us into a new position of the E minor pentatonic pattern. So I start from, like I said, open E, slight blues bend on the 3rd fret, and then on the 2nd fret of the A and the D string, we're barring with our first finger here, right? And then sliding up to that 7th fret on the A string with our 3rd finger, bringing us to a new pentatonic position, right? So the best way to think about this lick is to look at it in chunks, okay? So we can consider what we just went over, chunk number 1, right? And then chunk number 2 starts where chunk number 1 left off, right? So we're going, we're starting from the 7th fret here. Then we're gonna go 5, 7 on the D string. So we're holding out that E note right there, that 7th fret on the A string. And we're gonna go 5, 7 on D, and then slide from 7 to 9. So we're going. Okay, and then with our first finger, we're gonna catch the 7th fret of the G string, and then our second finger is gonna catch the 8th fret of the B string. Okay, so we're going. Okay, one more time. Then with our 3rd finger, we're gonna, on the 10th fret of the B string, we're gonna do a whole step bend. So we're bending from the pitch of the 10th fret here to the pitch of the 12th fret. Right? Not more or less. We want to try to nail that pitch. So if you need help finding that pitch, if you're trying to bend it, listen to the note. That's the note we're trying to aim to, right? And then listen for it when you do the bend from a lower note. And give it a little shake. The way I like to vibrato when I'm bending a note is to literally shake the neck of the guitar in my hand a little bit. It's kind of cool because on one hand, it lets gravity do the work for you, and on the other hand, I don't know, it just kind of, I feel more connected with my guitar when I vibrato like that. You know, so we're gonna do that, but then when we're in that bend, we're gonna, with our pinky, we're gonna fret the 10th fret of the high E string. So we're creating that oblique bend, and it's called an oblique bend because we're bending to one note and playing a completely different note on top of it. So if, for example, we were playing a unison bend, which we'll be kind of doing in the next chunk of the lick, whereas we're bending one note and then playing another note on top of it that happens to be the note that we're bending to. So we're essentially playing 2 notes. One of those notes is actually being bent to the right note. So in that case, that would be a unison bend. But in this case, it's an oblique bend because it kind of sounds like a workout term, right? We're working our obliques but it's just because we're bending to a note and we're playing a completely different note on top of that note that we're bending to. Right, so that whole chunk, right, starting from the 7th fret of the A string, all right, and then when we're holding that bend, we're gonna release it. So we're gonna pick it while it's bent up, release the bend, and then play the 8th fret on the B string. So we have one more time. All right, now coming up, we're gonna go into a couple unison bends, but they're a little bit different, and I'll show you what I mean. It's this part. Technically one unison bend, but we start by going. I like to slide up to it, so I'm sliding with my 3rd finger here. I'm sliding up to the 13th fret on the B string, sliding up to the fret and then bending slowly, right? And then with my 1st finger, I'm gonna play the 10th fret on the high E string, which is the exact note that I'm bending to on the B string, right? So if I play both of these notes together, that's what a unison bend is, right? So it's a play on a unison bend, but we're separating the notes. So we're going, instead of going, all right? So sliding up to 13 on the B string, and then bending up, right? We're bending up to the pitch of the 15th fret, technically. All right, which is also the same note as here, the 10th fret of the high E string. All right, and then we're gonna bend, we're reaching into the new octave of the first position in the E minor pentatonic scale now. Once we get here, so we start on the 15th fret on the B string, and then we bend that a whole step. So we're bending from the 15th fret to the 17th fret in this case, and then give it that old shake. Be sure to keep, keep a good amount of pressure on that bend, not too much, right? Just enough to keep that bend held high, and then when you keep that pressure on, then you can shake your guitar a little bit. And like I said, let gravity do the work for you. So real quick, starting from the beginning of chunk number 2, I'm gonna take it all the way to where we just played, and then I'll play everything we've just gone over in context real quick, all right? So starting from chunk number 2. And then here's from the top. Let me do that again. There we go. So once we're here, we're entering into a new chunk of the lick, right? So starting from where the previous chunk left off, then we're gonna go. All right, classic rock and roll pentatonic lick. So what we're doing here, remember, we're back into the first position of the E minor pentatonic scale, right? But we're in a new octave. So we've gone from this octave and traveled all the way up to this octave by way of this rippin' lick. So now that we're here, what we're gonna do is, so we're starting on the 12th fret of the high E string, then 15, 12 on the B string, all right? Then starting on the 14th fret of the G string, we're gonna bend it up a whole step again. All right, and then we're gonna bar with our first finger the 12th fret on the B and the high E string. That right there, like I said, is just a classic rock and roll lick, and you can just repeat that all day long if you want. You know? So we're going through that, right? We're 12th fret on the high E string, 15, 12 on the B string, then whole step bend starting on the 14th fret of the G string, and then we play 12 on the B and the high E string. And then we go back to that bend on the 14th fret, We hold it, and then we give it that old vibrato shake. All right, and then I like to give it a slight release, you know, so it's like, so it starts to slowly come down a little bit. Right? It leads really nicely into the next part of the lick. So we're going, and then we're going, yeah. So we're concluding it in this same neighborhood, right? So we're pretty much sticking with the E minor pentatonic position in this octave, but we just kind of go lower a little bit out of it towards the end. So we're going, right? And then we're doing that slight release. And we're doing 12 on the G string, 14 on the D string. All right, so. And then we're going 14 and 12 on the G string. One more time. Then we're going 14, 12 on the D string. Then, starting on the 14th fret of the A string, we're gonna slide with our third finger down to the 12th fret here. Make sure you give it that slide. All right, and then our first finger is gonna catch the 10th fret on the A string. And then we conclude the lick with 12th fret on the low E string. So we have. One more time slow. And then if you want, you can end it with that Hendrix chord, that 7 sharp 9. E7 sharp 9. So we're doing 7th fret on the A string. And then that's with our second finger. And then 6th fret on the D string with our first finger. 7th fret on the G string with our third finger. And then with our pinky, we're going to be playing the 8th fret of the B string. And then just give that another vibrato shake. Okay, so let's recap on this lick. I'm gonna play through it nice and slow, kind of chunk by chunk, and then I'll play it up to speed, okay? So starting from the top. Even played slow, that lick sounds pretty cool. But here it is up to speed. I really like this lick because not only is it something you can bust out at your next jam, it sounds really cool on its own, you know? And when you're learning it, remember to focus on it one chunk at a time, right? And you really want to isolate the parts that are most challenging. You want to isolate those parts, get through those, tackle those challenges first, and then start playing it in context, you know, because if you're playing through it, let's say you can play 80% of the lick, but there's that 20% that just makes it really, really tough. It's really frustrating to deal with that 20% when you're playing 100% of the lick. So just focus on that 20%, get through that, and then play it 100% in context and kind of see how much better you're doing. It's really important that you break this lick up first, and then when you put it together, then it flows and it feels like it's one lick rather than a bunch of little licks sort of pasted together. But what's most important when you're dealing with these kind of challenges is knowing exactly what it is that's preventing your progress when it comes to learning new stuff, learning new techniques on guitar. But the quickest and easiest way to get through these kind of challenges and really level up as a guitar player is to know exactly what it is that's holding you back. And I can help you figure out what that is. All you have to do is go into the description box and click the link to take a free survey that's going to tell you exactly what your #1 guitar progress killer is. So click here to take that survey right now and find out. And if you've enjoyed this lesson, you know the drill. Be sure to smack the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date on all the future lessons we got coming your way. And that about does it for this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I'm Eddie with Guitar Master Method, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.